Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about geometry terms. So let's get started. Alright, so this question is asking you to choose the term that has the given definition. And it gives you a set of terms and a set of definitions, and it wants you to choose the right one. So to really have a full understanding, I put all of the options that you can have on the side, and we're just going to quickly talk about each one before we really get into how this is going to work. So really quickly, a line segment looks like this. So it is a line, okay? So a line right here, like a traditional line, is usually shown as a line with the two arrows on side. These two arrows mean that it goes on and on forever and ever in a direction, okay? But a line segment is a chunk, it's a part of that. So it is a point and a point, and it only contains the parts of the line in between those points, okay? So just because it just so happens to be the first one, that's the definition here. So as a part of a line consisting of two endpoints and all points between them, this would be a line segment. And the part that I want you guys to think about and what exactly it means, it says part of a line. So if you think about a segment, we say like a TV segment or something about a segment, it talks about like a part of something, a part of a whole. And those two things, these two things really sort of mean the same two things. So part of a line, and that's really just talking about a line segment. So some of these you can pretty much figure out from, from process of elimination, but that's okay. So, and then I'm going to talk about a circle. So a circle, as we know, is just like this. So that's going to be described as, a point, a type of line that goes around and it connects to itself. So it'll pretty much say something to that respect when you get to that type of question. So pretty much if it's describing a circle, what a circle looks like, that's a circle. Now an angle. An angle is a part of a line and another part of a line that meet in the middle, okay? And if it says something about a vertex, that's horrible spelling. Sorry, guys. Vertex. That is the vertex. So that point where those two angles meet, that is a vertex. And that is where those two lines meet to make a certain angle. That is describing angle. All right. So next we have parallel lines. So a parallel line, taking you guys back to elementary school, they talk about the two L's and the parallel that describe how those parallel lines work. So parallel lines are two lines that never cross each other. So they have the same slope. So if two lines have the same slope, they're never going to cross each other. They're going to go in the same direction forever and ever. So like I talked about first with those lines go forever and ever in both directions. And they will never cross because they have the same slope. Perpendicular lines are the opposite. So if I have a line that goes this way, a perpendicular line not only crosses it, but crosses at a 90-degree angle. Okay. Congruent is one that I have to talk about a lot. My students are always like, what does congruent mean? Congruent simply means equal. So I'm just going to write that down because that's a big question that everyone has. So congruent equals equal. Okay. This comes up a lot when they talk about something being congruent versus being something similar. A lot of times people are like, well, what's the difference? Congruent means like copy and paste. That's what I call it. I usually say copy and paste. So if you were to take, sometimes I'll talk about like a circle or a rectangle or an angle, and I say, well, if it's literally the same thing, it might be like if this angle is the same as that angle, but it's flipped, it still can be congruent. So it doesn't matter which direction it's facing, as long as it's the same shape, the same size, the same angle measurements, all that good stuff. That's what congruent means. And I have that question a lot, so I'm just going to leave that there. Now, this next one talks about something about collinear and coplanar. So really quickly, when I think of the word I think of like coworker, or like, I'm just going to say a coworker because I'm going to say something embarrassing. So meaning with, right? Something to do with something, related to something. So if you look at the part and you separate it from the rest of the word, it says linear, and you have that word line, and then plane, as in plane. So collinear meaning it's in the same line as something else, and coplanar meaning it's in the same plane. A lot of people are, what's a plane? So you have a line. So let's say you have a whole bunch of lines that are going sort of in the same parallel. So I sort of describe it as like sort of like a sheet of paper, and everything in that plane are like points and angles or whatever that are all sort of on that sheet of paper in existence. So instead of having like ones here, it's sort of hard to explain, but I sort of just sort of tell it as like a sheet of paper. It's sort of hard to show on a screen like this. But if you think of like of all the things that you have in existence, it's like a sheet of paper, and then there's everything else. So as long as it's on that sort of plane, then it's considered coplanar. So going back to the question that we have here, it says belonging to the same line, and we just sort of talked about this. So if it's with something else, and it would be collinear. Also, think about that line thing. So if it asks you something specific about a line, right, you only have line segment, parallel and perpendicular. You should know that one. And then collinear. And you can sort of think about what it's asking you, and use process of elimination, even if you're not quite sure what it is. So next, this is a figure formed by two rays that have the same endpoint. So this would be an angle. So I'm going to talk about this real quick. So a ray, I don't know why they put ray on here, but a ray is a point with a half of a line. So a line, goes in two directions. So if I were to just take my little eraser and go and just say, well, part of that would be from this point onward in one direction is a ray. So if I have two rays that have the same endpoint, and that endpoint is called a vertex, again, that is an angle, okay? And they may use a couple of different things to call it this way. They may use a couple different descriptions, but pretty much if you understand what some of these words are, then that's what it is. So intersecting lines that form right angles. So if you just were like, man, I really don't know what that is, think about it, sort of draw it out. So if I say, okay, well, it's a right angle, my right angle is going to look like this, right? Well, then it's an intersecting line, meaning it crosses. What does that look like? Perpendicular lines. Okay, so if you're having a really hard time sort of thinking about what this means, draw it out. And it'll help you to think about what these things mean. But yes, these are, for the most part, the most basic and most, I'm not going to say most occurring, but they occur often, they pop up a lot. And if you can know what these words mean, you're going to have a great start to understanding geometry. And a lot of what these questions are asking, because sometimes people get caught up, people get caught up in what the words are, and they don't know how to answer the question because they don't exactly know what the question is asking them. So if you can have a really good basis of what these geometry terms mean, you're going to do great. So if you guys need more help, let me know.